All right, everybody, we're going to get started tonight. Hello, welcome everybody to the Access Nature Forum. My name is Sean Holland. I'm the Access Nature Disability Advocate with Pinelands Preservation Alliance. I'm the host for the Access Nature Forum. And with the Access Nature Forum, we seek to, through discussion, we seek to promote ideas and concepts that can further advance inclusivity and accessibility to outside and outdoor nature sites, recreation. Tonight, we're going to be listening in to a presentation given by uh, Matt Bender Hayden from Stafford Township, uh, and that is located in Ocean County. Matt is going to be discussing a inclusive passive park, all inclusive passive park that they are uh, su- suggesting to be built at Forecastle Basin. And Stafford Township is one of 53 municipalities which is within the Pinelands National Reserve. This is a area that is overseen by the Pinelands Commission, and they and oversee the preserve and protect and enhance all the natural resources within and this site, and also any land use. They provide any guidelines and laws for land use development and natural resource protection within this 1.5 million or 1.5 million acre uh, preserved land. The commission is overseen by 15 members on the board, and they oversee a process called a memorandum of agreement, which is what Matt will be discussing tonight. The 13-step process that the commission oversees, which has regulatory guidelines for what can be built when it comes to trails and natural sites. So I'm going to turn it over now to Matt to give his presentation.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate it. My name is Matt Vonderheyden. Like Sean said, I'm the township administrator and director of water and sewer for Stafford Township. So Sean and I actually ran into one another while the township was going through this process. And he's provided some great insight and some things to consider as we've been working on this project. So I'm gonna share screen here. Hopefully this works. Did a slide come up? Says Stafford Township, Forecastle Basin. Good. All right, great. Thank you. So this is the area in question. I've been the administrator here since 2019, and one of the things that the mayor, the governing body, we really have tried to do is make, when we look at projects, look at them comprehensively. Previously, we've dealt with a lot of stormwater concerns. One of the stormwater concerns is that middle picture. People in the township call this Forecastle Lake. It really was built as a basin that brings the water down from the Ocean Acres section of the township, which is very built out. That's basically our main residential section of the township. And with the way that the community was built back in time, what had happened was because there weren't many areas for stormwater to go towards, we had to come up with a way to mitigate a lot of stormwater challenges back in 2019. One of the things, and this I will, preface is, you know, part of what we're doing here tonight is creating a network. Back in 2019, when I first started, I was reaching out to get a history on the area, figure out what had happened in the past. And Pinelands Commission has been a big help in that. So it's always good to have good working partners. And just like now, Sean and I have created a network, right? He has something going on, he can reach out to me. We've already done it a handful of times and we've known each other, what, less than a year, Sean, right? And we've been able to do that. But the idea here was when the council came in, we wanted to look at things more comprehensively. And in this picture, it shows you the basin. It shows you some pathways that are already cut. The pathway on the left is downward of a larger area, and the pathway on the right that actually runs along Route 72. And the lake If you look at it from the one side, you can see the lake in the background to the left, and from 72 side, it's also to the left. Our idea is to create a pathway that connects both sides of the lake, but also a passive area while reforesting the area and to allow all those that would come to the park to be able to access it. So why would we do that? Like I said, there's a bigger goal here, and one is one of accessibility. We've redone a number of the township parks. This is outside of the Pinelands Commission areas, and we've added port in place. We've added parks that allow the anyone that would be in a wheelchair to get to all the way to the top of the structure. And we looked at it that way with the idea of, hey, if we build it this way, it's inclusive of everyone within our community. It also allows the township wasn't putting our community development block grants to use. So we were doing a lot of work with the county because in Ocean County they run their CDBG program. So we got that program back up and running. They hadn't done anything with CDBG funds in about 5 or 6 years prior to 19. And then we started to look for opportunities with recreational grants. Usually, like the state through DCA puts a yearly grant out. There's one right now we're working on to update some of our fields. But when those grants would come up, we would look to link them to projects that we're working on. So that checks box number one there, the accessibility. The other thing is the culture of health, right? If we don't have opportunities in our communities to connect one another, to provide locations where people can get together, well, how, we're a lot of things come up in today's society with mental health awareness, with, where can we go and get our exercise? This just provides one added feature to bring into the township that, especially in this is one of our most residential sections. In this section of the township, we did a travel plan with Greater Mercer TMA. That's a training planning organization. They call them TPOs. That's for in the area for Ocean County, and they will come out to your municipality and work with you to create a safe travel plan. So the idea behind those travel plans is it opens up funding through the Safe Routes to School program, which is run through the state, and there's also a federal program. Well, the idea is connectivity. If we can connect people, whether it's through bikeways, sidewalks, pathways, like we're going to talk about tonight, that creates this culture of health where we're bringing everyone into a municipality, whatever demographic, and allowing people to connect that way. The other thing is like I mentioned, that this was built as a basin, but essentially everyone in the township sees it as a lake. And if you observe the beauty in it, then you can see the scenic value of it. And also, we want to promote the area. It's an area where there's a local church that's right there. It's in an area where it's not connected at all at this point. There you have to go out onto the highway, you have to go out on the roadways to be able to connect right now. And it is a very scenic area once you get onto the property. So it's allowing that uh, nature and that scenery to come to fruition for everyone once it's created. So where is it at? To give you an idea, this is just an aerial shot. Hopefully you can see my cursor here. That one shot that was on the right, that runs right along here. This is Route 72 here. So it runs right along here. And we have a parking lot that's located right here. So we already have the parking for this. And we also have the pathways are already built out, with a lot of things. I mentioned that Safe Routes to School program. It's about looking for areas where people are already walking, but it's not built out that everyone can use it. So usually you can tell that when you're driving down the road, if you ever see that little dirt spot that's around, that usually bikes or people that walk on it all the time is worn out because the grass won't grow there. Well, those areas were worn out through this vegetated area right here and along the way. It also leads to another area over here that doesn't have as much vegetation, and part of our plan is to vegetate that, but also create that pathway system. So essentially, you'd be able to park here, come out, be able to do a loop around here, go around here, come all the way around, and then get back into this park over here. And again, the pathway would allow for all to be able to do that. So this is the other side of the park. I mentioned that open spaced area. So the right picture that you're looking at is an open field. This area back in 2019, there was a lot of bad behavior type of activity. There was some drug usage, there was vandalism. And it was just brush. It was a lot of brush. A lot of people had dumped things back there. We looked at it. Our public works department worked with them and our township engineer to basically go in there, clean it, get it nice and cleaned up. So you can see it's a lot nicer now. We have it right now. We have this chain going across it just because people will drive. We're driving up on top of it, so we don't want that to happen while we're working on this. And to the left of it is just another view of that basin lake area that we were talking about. And a lot of people will actually come out here and they'll fish, even though it's a stormwater basin that will come, actually leads off of a large residential section of the township. Again, this is just kind of giving you an idea of like boots on the ground, what the area looks like right now. If you're on that park side where it was all that open area, this is basically we walked this path area to show where the path would go. So this is leading back to that area. This is all along the lake. So this picture here where my cursor's at, the lake is or the basin is to your right. This picture here is more from where that chained area was. And the idea is to reforest this and create a pathway all the way around this to then loop around through the woods. And this would all be pathway that would go through the woods to allow everyone to be able to access it. Again, just more pictures of the pathway where it would lead. You can kind of see the pathway's already kind of been marked. You can see a lot of traffic already going through these trees. And again, it's just meant to be a passive park. There's no playground equipment. There's no, any type of equipment that we're going out there. We just want people to be able to enjoy it, provide a new amenity to the township, but it's more meant to be like a sanctuary, like a scenic area. Again, more areas along the basin, just to give you an idea. This is a very large area, so I think it'll be a substantial improvement for everyone that lives in the township. This is the parking area. So this is on the other side, where I pointed out the parking lot area. This is already opened up, and you can see the area has already been opened up here as well. There's actually two entrances. There's one right here, and there's one right over here. That allows for a loop to go around on the other side of the basin. You'll see that in a minute. The other part of this is you can kind of tell on these pictures, this is on the parking lot side of where we're located. You see a lot of trash. Part of healthy living is people are going back there and I mentioned it, becomes an area for bad behavior. We've had individuals that need help. They're homeless and they need help. So we have an on point program. So we'll go out there and speak with them. There's opportunities like TANF, which is temporary housing, or if they're veterans, there's veterans housing that we can help them get into. But there's also a lot of litter. The Wawa cups, the Coke cans, the Pepsi cans, a lot of trash. And when you have parks, our buildings and we have a great public works department. So, they maintain all the parks that we have right now. We have numerous parks in the township. The township is very large, so it's a large space to cover, but they do an excellent job with the handling of that. And we will, part of our agreement with the Pinelands Commission is that we make sure it stays clean. But the other part that we observe with with having parks and amenities in place is when people are using them, they're not getting treated like this with a lot of trash. And what happens, if we know there's fish in this basin area, if we know we have ducks and geese, the wildlife that comes out there. I've been out there where there's been herons out there. You trash it up. Well, you're not taking care of your environment. So we want to, part of this is to try to do that. You can also kind of see, along the way, there's milk cartons, there's, all the little paper wrappers and all that. But the path system is essentially created itself. But that said, this area is not really amenable to someone that's in a wheelchair or in crutches to be able to utilize it. So we're trying to make everything all inclusive for, everyone in the community to be able to enjoy it. This pathway is pretty much already, you know, built and it's set up itself that we would be able to put this pathway in and maintain it. Again, just this is the other side of the lake where that parking lot was. It ends up being a big loop. So I tried to walk it to give the people anybody a perception of what the path would eventually look like once it's paved. Part of how Sean and I met, this is a presentation that I gave to the Pinelands Commission as we were going through those steps. I put the steps to that MOA process in the chat so everybody could take a look at it. But it is a process. Most of local government, it's a process. You got to follow that process. Right now, the township's at step 9 in this process. We're almost there. Sean's been a great guidance because he's been working with Pemberton to go through their process. But that MOA will eventually allow us to build this. But it also educates the Pinelands Commission as to what's out there. And again, talking back to, going back to the networks, we're trying to build those networks because the more we talk, the more we get the input, the more it allows us to work together to make for good projects. And, again, when you're trying to be all inclusive, you want the input from people that are going to use it, because if we don't get that input, how are we going to make it better? So this is kind of an obstacle that we've been working around. This is a bulkhead. So this is if you're looking at if you're following along with my cursor here, this is a bulkhead that's up against that basin. And to your right is Route 72. So when we get a coastal flood event, this is not in the severe flood hazard area. But as I mentioned, because the way that the township is built out and the way Barnegat to the north of us has been built out, the rainwater is pitched that it goes towards Route 72. Well, remember I said, like, we're looking at this as a comprehensive approach. Route 72 is the coastal evacuation route for not only Stafford Township, but the Long Beach Island communities, Eagleswood, Barnegat. If you're in those areas, you have to be able, you're utilizing that to be able to get out of harm's way. So part of that is as well, this area as a basin, this area tends to be wet. So as a part of the pathway, we have to be able to build that pathway that it would be able to go over this. And, obviously if it's flooded, it can't be used by everyone. So our engineer had to come up with an innovative way to get over this. He's found almost like a boardwalk style approach to be able to get over this little area right here. So that was part of that 13-step process. Basically the 13-step process, what you're doing in that process is the first thing is you're coming up with a concept. What do you want to do? Right? Once you have the what do you want to do and the project maps, that's when you're going to the Pinelands initially and saying, hey, we have this idea. This is what we want to do. This is what we're trying to accomplish. And that's when they come back and they start to ask you for more information on the property. Is it in the Pinelands? Are there any effects on wildlife? What type of, in our instance, they're looking at like how much coverage are you putting on the area and how are you going to make up for that? Then you're getting, basically more and more you're detailing up as to what what you're eventually trying to put into fruition. The other things they want to see are your roles and responsibilities. Do you have like I mentioned, the buildings and ground staff? Do we have the buildings and ground staff once this is put in to be able to, make sure it stays clean, to make sure that the path is going to stay stable? If it needs to be maintenance, are we going to, we're going to go back and are we going to take care of it? Have we contacted other agencies? Have we contacted the public about it? How are you going to fund it? Are you gonna pay for it, or are you going to go after grant money to pay for it? If you're proposing like we are asphalt pathways to go through this area, well, how are you going to make up for the asphalt that you put in? That's why part of the reason why we're looking to plant the trees in the areas. We're trying to make up for that. The other things is they're looking for, I mentioned animals, but they're looking at wetlands buffers. They're looking at, is there any type of rare vegetation that's on the property? They're making sure that it matches up with their CMP for the Pinelands and making sure that those design measures are in place. And then once you get through those design measures, it's a lot of back and forth with the Pinelands Commission staff. I will say they have been excellent. They ask, their job is to protect the Pinelands. And we're working with them and they ask for their items. It may take us a week or two, or sometimes I always tease because I think of the money pit. If you talk to a contractor or my engineer, they tell me 2 weeks for everything. I feel like everything is 2 weeks, right? But we work, we stay on it, and it's basically you just have to stay on it and keep at it and keep plugging away at it. And eventually you get to your MOA process. This is just another picture. So one of the difficulties, because this area is so big, is that it goes from one side to the other. And Route 72 is basically that main trunk line that gets you from our parking lot side to what we refer to as our canal side. That's the open area. So this is an area that has to be paved out to one of our roadways to be able to allow for that access. But this is a block down the street from that access point, so it does link up nicely. So why would you do all this, right? This is a 13-step process. We've been working on this since probably May of last year. Um, but it's the right thing to do, right? If we're trying to make it inclusive for everyone in the township, well, if I went out there and we just paved it, well, then Pinelands Commission is going to be very happy with me or my engineer, and the township's probably going to get a lot of fines. And we need to work on this together, right? Because we don't want to do anything that the Pinelands doesn't want us to do. They're in conflict with their rules and regulations. But it's also about trying to make the community healthier. And I say this, promoting community wellness. We've done a lot of things in the community. We actually did a survey about a year ago, and we put a survey out to the public on how would you like to see the community be healthier, right? What are those things? And a lot of things that came back were mental health awareness. They want to see more improvements to our recreational areas, and they want to see seniors involved more in the community. So we've been doing a lot of different things with mental health awareness with our partners in the Mayor's Wellness Campaign and Sustainable Jersey. And again, I mentioned in the beginning about the networks. This is about connecting different programs and services and people that, we're trying to do good things, because a lot of this stuff you find will over connect, they're going to connect with one another, and it's kind of like an overlapping of, hey, we're working on this, but you know what? This connects to the Mayor's Wellness Campaign, and this connects to our Sustainable Jersey program. So then our green team gets involved. So like this past year, we started to talk about this. And one of the things that we know, like I showed in the pictures, was you saw trash. You saw the Wawa cups and the wrappers and all those things. Well, every year our township does a couple things. We do Arbor Day. We do a township-wide cleanup that we started 2 years ago. We do a green fair. Somebody on our green team, we're talking about this project, and they go, last year we did 7 locations in the township. The township has a number of different sections. So the area we're talking about is called the Ocean Acres section, but we have another section called Stafford Park, which is a development that's built on a closed landfill. We have another section, it's a downtown area where we have a lot of our commercial, but there's residential that's behind that commercial, and a downtown area that was built a long time ago with Bay Avenue and Route 9. And then we have Beach Haven West, which is a large bayfront community. And then we have 2 islands. We have Bonnet Island and Cedar Bonnet Island. And then we also have Warren Grove, which is completely in the Pinelands. And you actually have to drive through Stafford, go to Barnegat, and then go back into Stafford where Warren Grove's located. So you've got all these different communities. And what we tried to do with those cleanups was we tried to hit different areas in the community. Well, somebody on the green team and another active resident that we had said, hey, why don't we really need to add Forecastle Basin to the mix. Well, it's just one more thing that we're doing that says, hey, we know it's an area where we're trying to, redevelop. We're trying to put this passive park in place. Well, why not make it, when we can connect people and have them come out? The last township cleanup we had about 60 people in 7 different locations. This year we're going to add 8. It's going to be Forecastle Basin, which we're talking about tonight. And there's wellness to that, right? It's people getting together, we're cleaning up the trash, the recycling that we find on the ground, but it's the connection, again, it's the connections that you make. Because those people are coming up with different ideas. And last year we didn't do this area. This year we already have people volunteering to do this area because they see this coming, because we're trying to do public outreach as we're doing it. And while we're doing that, they're saying, "Hey, how can we help?" Right? So when they say, "How can we help?" My job is to say, "This is how you can help. I need, hey, let's add it to the township wide cleanup, and let's clean it up together." Well, what's that do? It provides, we're providing a connection for space that's right now, the space is underutilized. We know that, it's basically being used for activity that, either people are trying to hide away in these locations that actually need help, and then we're getting them help, or, people can't access it at all. So I already think I hit four, but I mean, we're getting kids involved in this, right? Kids are involved in our Arbor Day. The parents are bringing the kids out to help with the cleanups. So they're getting to see, like, hey, this is what a community is. The other thing is we're conserving wild areas, right? So while I'm out there, I mentioned I'm seeing ducks and geese, and I know there's fish in the basin, and there's herons and all types of wildlife that are out there. Well, if it's trashed all the time, it's really not being taken care of, right? And if we get out there and we clean it up, it's providing that, when you take a step back and you see some of those pictures, it's a very scenic area to enjoy. The other thing is creating safe gathering spaces, right? I mentioned that some of the bad activity. Well, if we're doing this, it's not only becoming all inclusive, but it's becoming part of, hey, how are we going to make this a safe gathering place? I've already been talking with the pastor of the church that's out there, and he can't wait for this to be done, because he's going, hey, well, we can help clean it up on a regular basis. And hey, I got kids that come into the church. This would be great. I can take them out there and play. And that's one of the other things, is like, it's creating a place where everybody can play, right? If you have the ability where everybody has a chance to come out and play, that's how awesome is that can happen. I brought this up in the presentation, and Sean asked me to share it. I have a son who's autistic. He also has devices that he utilizes. He has an augmentative device that helps him speak. He has a wheelchair when in certain circumstances when he needs that. We utilize that. We have an adaptive bike that, so he can ride a bike, because he's not able to ride a typical bike like other kids do. Well, what does that do? That allows everybody to do that. And I always give this example, and I gave it at the Pinelands Commission. We do baseball at the Field of Dreams. And it's always the coolest thing I love about going to the Field of Dreams is when you're out there, everybody comes to the field, and they always get a ton of volunteers to come out and volunteer for the leagues, right? And all the volunteers go out on the field, and all the respective teams are in the dugout ready to play. And some kids are in wheelchairs, and some kids have crutches, and some kids have air tanks or whatever they have, right? And the first thing the volunteers do is they come over, and there's a look of they're petrified when they come over. And then all of a sudden you play the first inning, and all of a sudden everybody goes, "Oh, they're just regular kids, right? They're just playing baseball." And they might play baseball a little bit different than a typical kid might play baseball. But guess what? They still play baseball, and they're still having fun, and they still go out there and have a good time. And once you see that, all of a sudden it clicks, and everybody's there, and it's just we're playing baseball. And that's what these passive parks are really meant to do. It's just, hey, everybody's just out there to get to enjoy this. Everybody's out there to enjoy the scenery. Everybody has an opportunity to see everything else that everybody else can see. And it's in a safe environment. And it also, the thing I have to check is, you have to remember, in my position, I got to answer to the politicians. So the other thing is hey, it improves the property values, right? If we're improving the area and we're improving improvements, well, hey, it's another area that we can go, and we can go back in, and we can say, hey, look, hey, it's a new park, it's a new system. Hey, somebody comes into the area and they want to be able to utilize utilize a new park. Well, right now, if you want to go to a park area, you either got to hop on your bike or you got to walk in the street and go to our Nautilus Park or our Ocean Acres Lake Park. And those are distances from where this is at. So this is, that it helps to improve property values when we look to do these type of projects. Um, so that's why you do something like this. So what we're proposing to do, it works out to around roughly 2,600 linear feet of trail that would go around this area. It's a 6 foot wide path. The reason for the 6 foot wide is that allows, two people in wheelchairs were to be able to pass one another. That allows that accessibility. One of the things I mentioned, that 13-step process. We're in step 9 of that process right now. So one of the reasons why we're in step 9 is we have to be able to come up with drainage calculations, and it also has to be stable. So that's where, then I'm leaning on my township engineer to go, hey, how do we make this happen? And he's going, okay, well, we got to add this and we got to add this stone to make it stable. And then that's a back and forth with Pinelands to be able to explain, well, in these areas we need more stone, or these areas we need more asphalt, or, it needs to be graded this way. That's why you have good professionals. Our engineer, his name's Frank Little. He's been doing an excellent job with this. And again, you have to realize when you go into something like this, again, I'm big on trying to push information down to our younger staff, because if they learn how to do it, one day, I'm not going to do this anymore. I want somebody that's going to take things like this on and be able to learn how to do it. Well, you got to be able to explain it to them. And one of the most frustrating things to see with that is it's frustrating for them, because you go, it's just asphalt. But you have to realize that it's part of something bigger. If we're not complying with those rules and regulations, we're going to get the township in trouble. We're going to ruin our relationship with, the Pinelands Commission. We don't want to do that. And we want to do it right from the beginning. So why a paved surface? I stole a couple pictures here from Sean's website. Sorry, Sean. But one of the things, and this is observation, and why we really wanted to go through this MOA process, is if you use, the ADA improvements that we made in the township, and I'll show a couple pictures. We've done poured in place rubber. We've done and we've done that on purpose because we want everybody to be able to utilize it. The mulch and the pea gravel and all those different things are technically ADA compliant. Well, I would challenge you, the gentleman in the picture on the right is try to go anywhere in that wheelchair and it's on pea gravel or mulch for any distance and try to utilize and do that. It's not a fun time. I've seen it myself. You go to parks and playgrounds and there's partially paved. It's not a very fun experience for those that are utilizing that type of device. So that's why we went forward with this. And again, it's to provide the access to be able to use these areas. So this is the difference. We looked at a compacted stone trail and we looked at an asphalt trail. So when we did our presentation, we weren't trying to hide anything. We said, look, here's what it amounts to. The compacted stone trail, it's 1.31 cubic feet per foot of trail. And the asphalt, it's obviously going to be more, right? Because there's not it's not permeable. It's not as permeable as compacted stone. So it's higher. We're not hiding it, but we're asking for it because we think it's the right thing to do. Like I said, the township engineer, he went through, he had to do soil analysis, he had to do tests on that soil. Again, that's where we're at in this process right now, is we're working through that to be able to provide, the right design for the right type of project that we're looking to do here. And also that, when we're doing these asphalt surfaces, we want to make sure that it's pitched right. So we want to make sure that it's going to discharge away from the lake and not towards the lake to add to the basin. So this is what it would look like. I know I talked a little bit about, I talked a lot about those different, like, how are we going to walk this? Or how are we going to traverse this path area? So this is Route 72 right along here. If you're following along with my cursor, The boxed area is where we have where our current parking is at. It's not striped right now. It's more used as access parking for our public works department. But the plan is to put 25 spaces in there. Once we're working our way towards this MOA approval, we would add 3 handicap parking stalls in that lot. And I mentioned the pathway. So the pathway would go, this is the main access area to get out to the area that we're talking about. So you would come down here, this would be that 6-foot asphalt pathway, meaning the green line. That green line would then go around here to go around a loop, come back around, and then go all the way back around in front of the basin. This area here is where I mentioned that bulkhead is at. This pathway here, we have people that will park. They'll just come right off of Route 72, and there's a couple areas where you can just pull off the road. There's like sanded areas right now. They just park and then we'll walk back here. So we're trying to get them to go to this parking lot because it's, obviously parking on major highway Route 72. It's not very ideal. Then the pathway that I mentioned that goes back out to Forecastle, this would go out to our paved sections that we already have. And then you'd be able to connect, come all the way back here, and then come into this area. The hash line is where I mentioned that we would come back and plant our trees. One of the other things that we noticed 5 years ago when I started was the trees that were being planted in the township were not native to the area. So I would have residents coming out to me and go, "Hey, you got trees dead on this street. You got trees dead on that street." So I contacted the Rutgers Co-op for Ocean County. I asked them, I said, "Hey, can you come out here and help me? Because, don't, I don't understand why all these trees are dying." Well, they were dying because the trees weren't native to the area. So we went through a whole process. We've updated for our planning and zoning boards. We put it into the township code, our native trees that between the Native Plant Society, Rutgers Co-op, they helped us develop. So in that reforested area, what we proposed to the Pinelands Commission is that we would replant that entire area. And then the solid line that goes around that would become the pathway off of the parking lot. So the parking area is right here. You would then be able to access this, go all the way around this new forested area, go around the forested area that I showed in the pictures, and then be able to go all along the Forecastle Lake Basin area and then back to the parking lot. So that's the overall idea of what we're trying to do here. We added that 150 feet buffer that's in there. So that's again going back to those design answers that we're answering right now with the Pinelands Commission. I can say if you're planning to go through this process, they are awesome. Again, it's a local government process. So as long as you realize that, they work with you every step of the way to help to, accomplish or guide you in the best way to do what you're trying to accomplish. So I think in summary, that's the biggest thing that I would point out. I think hopefully you can tell from the presentation where there's main things here. The number one's community. We want to be able to pull everybody into community to be able to enjoy the nature, be able to enjoy the safety. Again, this is a pet peeve of mine because we have so many of these spots that pop up. But you can see the amount of trash. This area is an asset to the community. It's just not being utilized the right way yet. And we're working to get there. We're just not there yet. And so I think that opportunity is there. You can see when I was out here this day, you might not be able to spot him, but there's actually a couple. Here he is here. Always miss his head. The head of the ducks right here. I go walking out, all the ducks go running behind here. But look at all that trash that they have to deal with. Is that taking care of your environment? Absolutely not. And we're doing, like I mentioned, we're doing this wellness campaign. We're in the Sustainable Jersey program. We're trying to make the community better. And if we could do that by making it more inclusive for everyone to be able to, participate, be able to enjoy it, that's what we're looking to do. So what are we doing to be able to make this come to fruition? The township has $140,000 we already have in tree funds. That's funds that we collect from developments that we do in the township. We also have $100,000 in capital to be able to do the pathway. And that doesn't happen without our mayor. Our mayor We're a strong mayor form of government. It doesn't happen without our township council. But as I mentioned before, we got a lot of good professionals and we got a lot of good staff. Our public works department, they're providing input on this. Our township engineers providing input in on it, and everybody's committed to get it done. So, we have the people here to make it work. And that's our intention to do it. Um, the other thing is, I said you had to have the staff. Part of it is, well, if you're going to put people out on those pathways, we're going to have the toters, the trash toters, the recycling toters. We're going to need to be able to pick it up. We know we have the public works staff to be able to do it, and it's a matter of getting it in rotation to be able to make sure that they're out there to do the work. The other things, the proposed reforestation area, we're proposing to do 15,600 square feet. That's what that path would work out to with the 6 foot length that I mentioned to earlier. So that reforestation area would be a little over 35,000 square feet, and we would plant it with the native trees that we've established with the for the area. These are some examples that I mentioned. This is a completely ADA playground. You could get if you were in a wheelchair, if you were in crutches, you could get all the way to the top of this structure. This is all poured in place rubber, so anybody. I like it too because for the typical kids, the kids are usually jumping off the top of these things. You fall on this rubber, it makes it the fall is a lot less dangerous. And, again, it makes it all inclusive for everybody that's there to enjoy it. This is another park that we were able to get approved through a redevelopers agreement. Again, it's all poured in place rubber. We're actually in the process of using some of our CDBG money to be able to. This park isn't as big as the other one, but you can see the ADA swings over here. These are we tried to pick things that everybody could get up to as far as the ground equipment. Um, and then the other thing is we were Sean and I were talking a little bit about other devices before the presentation started. We've used some of our CDBG money to put these communication boards. These communication boards are now throughout every park that we have. So that it's just an added amenity, and eventually once this park is up and running, we would try do the same once the funds became available to do something similar. So this was more geared towards the Pinelands Commission. I'm asking them that, like, hey, we need you to help guide us. We need you to help be on board with us to do this. And like I said, they've been more than willing to do that. Um, it's just taking the time to sit down and do that with them. I would encourage you. I put the link in the chat so you can see it. For that MOA process, there's a document that they have online that I think kind of walks through that entire MOA process. Again, I'll just reiterate it one more time. It is a process. Don't let it frustrate you. I would say it's well worth it, and the staff are excellent at Pinelands Commission to work with and sit down and do it. So I would encourage you to do so. And I think, Sean, unless you would like me
Yeah,
to talk about anything else, I think that's what I got.
yeah. No, thank you, Matt. I hope this presentation is useful for land managers and municipalities within the Pinelands Reserve who are seeking to do projects similar to this, in accessibility and inclusivity. Um, and like Matt was saying, this is just an opportunity for networking. Uh, I have, in my role, have helped with Pemberton Township. They also went through an MOA process. They just in January got the approval to go through with their project. I did actually also send a link in the chat for that, as well as what Matt was saying, the 13-step process for the MOA process with the commission. Uh, I actually had a question, Matt, regarding your project and the parking spaces. Uh, are they is that whole area going to be a paved area? I mean, I guess I'm curious to know what the regulations and what the process you had to go through for the parking.
Yeah, so the area that we're talking about, let me bring the presentation back up, Sean. What we were gonna do is the three handicap spots, we
Mhm.
would, that, those would be paved. Oh, I'm sorry, I actually took it down here. Sorry. They would be paved to get to the paved parking. And we would likely keep it, right now it's a stoned parking lot, so we would likely keep it stoned area
Mhm.
and put the parking bumpers out in those areas to identify the 25 spots.
Okay.
That way, anyone, that would utilize the park that was handicapped, they would be able to utilize, they would be able to go right on to the park. And the way we treat our parks, we're in a unique situation. Like I mentioned, we have a lot of really good staff. But our public works department, we have about 40 or so staff in our public works department. We have five divisions. One of those divisions is buildings and grounds. This park area would be put on a schedule with other parks that we have in the township. We have Doc Kramer Park, Beach Avenue Park, Mill Creek Park, Ocean Acres Lake, Nautilus Park. It would be put on that rotation to be able to maintain it. So,
Mhm.
should it need to, we even have a small paver that one of our other departments, our road department utilizes to do other pathways that we already have in the township. But because this is such a large project and because of the design that's needed, we would likely bid it out to have it done.
Okay. Is that parking area within any kind of uh, nature zone, like a wetland buffer or anything like that?
No, it's outside.
It's outside.
Yeah,
So
it's outside
no,
of it.
no
Yep.
regulations with that. So
Yep.
okay. And then also I had a question, and then I'll open it up to other folks who might have questions. Uh, did with your plan, did you guys talk about a possibility of adding like docks, ADA dock like systems to the
We didn't
site?
at this point, Sean.
Yeah.
There was a greater plan at one point that they did back in the early '90s that talked about doing a bridge over the over that basin area.
Mhm.
The problem is most of it is like towards the top of that basin is actually residential properties.
Yeah.
We kind of have to be careful of where we do that. So the ADA ramps, we haven't looked at doing that yet, but I think that's probably something that we could potentially look to do. You're talking about like a kayak ramp or something like that?
Yeah, or just something that I didn't know if there was fishing that happen. Is an activity that takes place there a lot.
Fishing does take place there, but like I said, that because it's really a basin,
Hmm.
like part of me says, hey, that's great that people fish there, but the other part of me says, do I really want to promote fishing in an area where it's that, where that's because you're getting stormwater runoff that's
Yeah, yeah,
running
yeah.
through there.
Right. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, I can open up the floor. And also, you can post them in the chat if you do.
Hi,
Right.
this is Katie. So I just had a question about you went through this process and you're going to be putting the path up and that kind of thing. And you have these measurements, but are you is anybody going to go out there and test it before it's like totally like permanent? Like I know I've experienced things where, they have these great plans that go out. And then when, the contractor or whoever comes in, um, they may not necessarily follow the regulations as far as like the pitch of a ramp or an entrance or anything like that. And I know like in one of the parks that I've visited in the past in my own community, they did a bridge over a wetland area, which was great, but like there was such an lip on the front of the bridge, like you couldn't get yourself up, you know, to get over the bridge.
I I can tell you this, just from from living it, we've
Yeah,
done
yeah.
with our ADA improvements. I could say Frank Little, and we have inspectors on our jobs, so we would have an inspector out there making sure they're in compliance with what it is. And you might not be able to tell this, but you got to have a lot of fortitude to get through this process. If they were to do it wrong, then my job's going to be to tell them to rip it up and do it again. And that's what I would do. And I've had to do that, just from doing my type of work. Part of that's my job, is to tell them to do that. And sometimes contractors don't like me, but if that's what we're paying for and that's what we asked for, that would
Yeah.
be the design, and that's what we're going to get.
Yeah.
We actually just had that happen. We've done 3 ADA. They've been sidewalk projects in the past 3 months. One was we have a pickleball court that we just installed last year. And it was at a previously designed, it was designed for a hockey rink, and the hockey rink basically just kids weren't using it anymore. It became one of these areas where it was just kind of congregating. So we redid it as pickleball courts. But as soon as we did it, we said, well, we're looking at the pickleball courts, and it was great. Look, I said, we're usually trying to look at comprehensive design. I go out there and I'm talking to the engineer. I said, Frank, we can't get to, if you're in a wheelchair, we can't get here. So then we had came back, and we were able to do concrete to tie in where the ADA spots were in that parking lot, to create a sidewalk that allows, anybody to go out and use the pickleball courts. Uh, Route 72, sometimes even our state partners with the Route 72 bridge project over in our Beach Haven west section of the township. I had a resident contact me. He says, my son's in a wheelchair, and I go to use the part of the bridge where I go to walk. And he goes, guess what? I go, what? He goes, DOT didn't put the ADA curb stop in to allow anybody to get up there. So he basically has to, lift his son's wheelchair up onto the sidewalk to be able to get up there. So we contacted DOT. I got them to agree to put it in. And they basically told me, well, you got to put one in on your side if we're going to do it. And I said, okay, fine. Well, so we got ours done about a month ago, and now I'm hounding them to put theirs in.
The other side.
So
Yeah, yeah,
that's kind of part of the gig. You just gotta,
yeah.
you gotta become a pain in the neck.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, yes, we had gotten a
Oh,
comment from Dennis Applegate, who was also with the Township Green Team, and looking to seeking to learn how to better engage the municipality with groups to their collaborative projects.
Susan, I think you asked the question, how do you get to these collaborations? The
Yeah,
biggest thing to do is go out and meet people, go out and either call the folks or go out and meet them on their own territory. Because if you don't start to develop those relationships, that's the biggest way on how to do this. I can't tell you how many times, when you go out and you're open and honest with people and say, look, this is what I'm trying to do. They may still have to tell you no because of one of their rules or regulations, but it's still a relationship that you develop. So usually if you're trying to work with them, people want to work with people that want to work together. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes I got to go back and tell the contractor, hey, rip it up. But they also know that, hey, if they did it wrong, that's what you bid on. And, it's the same thing with the Pilots Commission. If there's something that eventually they say, well, we can't allow you to do that or do this in this section, it's like, okay, well, then what can you allow me to do to be able to create this so I know what to do? And sometimes if the answer is well, that's more money, well, that's where you got to be. That's why you're continuing to build your network. Then you go, okay, well, how do I get that grant? Oh, well, like I mentioned, like DCA comes out with a local recreation grant that's, somewhere between like 75, 100 grand every year. Well, maybe it means I got to wait a year to do what I want to do. But if you don't ask the questions, if you don't try to put a face to a name and tell them your story. Well, you're never going to get anywhere unless you try. And sometimes the first person you talk to isn't always the right person at that organization to talk to. So you just kind of got to stay at it and keep, and keep trying to build it over time.
Yeah, I also kind of responded to you in the chat. But yeah, you can reach out to me with my email. We can talk a little bit more about it. But I find that possibilities for collaborative work would be with contacting local disability organizations. Like I mentioned in the chat, there's Centers for Independent Living. So just that would be a constituent base to contact. Also, Disability Rights New Jersey, which is it's the state organization that oversees uh, ADA compliance and resources for people with disabilities.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming.
Any other questions? Any other questions from the group? Comments? Resources?
I would say one of the things that I do for networking is, and it sounds like it's like sometimes it's like shoveling sludge, is through Facebook. There are a lot of like different Facebook groups. Like I belong to the adaptive sports. So, and what you could do is you could just put a post out there, to do like, in the age of Zoom, it's really wonderful because you can reach people, especially people that may not have transportation to get to a meeting or something like that. It makes it so much easier to access and network. So there are a lot of different, I think groups that are out there where you might be able to gather more people that are local just based on putting something out there. And it's beyond the independent living communities, I think. Is that it? Yeah, independent.
Living, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Thank you.
I think that's one of the, I just put a link to a group in the chat. This is somebody that I met, the Supportive Housing Association in New Jersey. And one of the things they're trying to do is, their mission is to help engage people for housing systems in the state. But the other thing they're trying to do is, from a diverse population. I was speaking to one of the or their director, and she was telling me like, hey, she started talking about individuals with disabilities, and I said, I started talking to her about things that we're doing in Stafford Township to try to make it more inclusive for individuals with that. And then all of a sudden, she starts bringing about a toolkit they have for municipalities. And here, I'll put the toolkit in the chat. But basically, it starts opening up all these other opportunities that I wasn't even thinking about for individuals with disabilities. And I'm going, hey, well, I'm doing that, I'm doing that, I'm doing that, but I'm not doing these three things. I need to look into those. And, now she knows I'm looking into that stuff. And then, there's been a couple things that she funnels to me that I'm going, hey, that would be a good project.
Great, thanks.
Absolutely.
And also, I mentioned a couple of aspects with the Pinelands, the Access Nature initiative. So we do have our sister organization, Pinelands Adventures, where we do livery services and outdoor programs, and we've been trying to implement inclusive and accessible tours, land-based and water-based. So we had been able to get 7 wheelchairs to take folks out on nature-based guided programs. So we are looking to do, collaborative work with organizations and maybe nursing programs who might help with assisting these folks when they're out on the trails, but also working with organizations like Kingsway Learning Center, which is based in Morristown, New Jersey. Um, so working with also cerebral palsy organization, connecting with them, and finding local communities. You can use them as a if you're doing some sort of like focus groups. So it's stuff that we're looking to do with the Highlands Adventures and with the Access Nature program. Any other questions? Mhm. All right. Well, all right. Yeah. Thank you. Got that.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
thank
for
you.
doing this.
So we're going to conclude that. Conclude this edition of the Access Nature Forum. So thank you all for joining us, and hope to see you next time.
Have a good
Thanks,
night, everybody.
Sean. Thanks, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thanks.